at Channel Africa on Facebook and YouTube, and at Channel Africa 1 on TikTok. This is The Upside, your gateway to the good life. Let's talk about access in the form of literacy and telling African stories written by Africans.
Absolutely. Today, SA Books Online hosts a timely conversation on the future of African academic publishing, titled "What It Really Means to Publish African." I beg your pardon. The event takes place at the Chinua Achebe Auditorium at the University of Johannesburg, with both in-person and online audiences. So we can accommodate you from wherever you may be on the African region, as it were. The program explores how African scholarship is written, published, and also shared globally, with a focus on centering African stories and knowledge systems. It features Vickers van Zyl alongside others. You know, when we look at virtual contributions, historians are going to be a part of this, and a beautiful musical opening as well. So definitely worth your while to check this out. But let's unpack further with award-winning author and SA Books Online founder, and might I add, a good friend of The Upside, Sbusiso Manqa, joins us on the line. Sbu, welcome back to the show. Pleasure to talk to you.
It's a pleasure to talk to you guys. Thank you so much for always inviting us back. We appreciate the support.
Absolutely. What a fine idea it is to really bring book lovers into one space to explore the burning question, what it really means to publish African. Let's talk about that. Perhaps let's explore the meaning in today's context, publishing African.
I think we got to a point where you start to realize one of the most beautiful stories that you can find there, with facts, with historical context and research, don't read that well. And those are the stories that drive our narrative. And then others that the narrative might be a little bit non-factual, they push the sales. And this is an expensive process to publish a book. So now what it really means to publish African, we look at the historical facts, we look at the process of putting together a book, we look at the financial implications towards it, and we look at the audience and the market of who's consuming our stories.
What it really means to publish African. This is going to be a very powerful conversation, and on the line, joining us to unpack it and what it means to publish African, we're joined by Sbusiso Manqa, award-winning author and founder and managing director of SA Books Online. We'll continue the conversation with him right after this.
Africa, voici Abedi.
Oui, c'est moi.
Abedi est un passionné de musique dans l'âme. Il a un goût pour toutes sortes de musique et passe ses journées à écouter Channel Africa.
J'aime beaucoup la musique africaine.
Ok. Devinez quoi? Channel Africa veut aider Abedi et les mélomanes du monde entier à découvrir encore plus de musique incroyable. C'est pourquoi Channel Africa appelle les artistes africains à soumettre leur musique. Chers artistes, n'oubliez pas de nous fournir toutes vos informations pertinentes à l'email adresse musique@channelafrica.co.za. Les soumissions sont votre chance d'être entendues, mais elles ne garantissent pas une playlist. Toutes les soumissions seront soigneusement examinées pour voir si elles répondent aux exigences de notre station. Channel Africa, la perspective africaine.
Tebogo and Mmatsheko from The Upside.
19 minutes after 3 p.m. Central African time, there will be a very powerful conversation taking place at the University of Johannesburg. It is titled "What It Really Means to Publish African," and SA Books Online will be hosting it. We are in conversation with the founder and managing director of SA Books Online, award-winning author Sbusiso Manqa. Sbusiso, let's talk about the impact of telling African stories written by Africans. Let's start there. And I think in explaining that, perhaps also walk us through the process of publishing and getting a book published, because we have young people who may want to tell stories. They've got ideas, they've got maybe historical data. They want to put this in the form of a book. And how important then is it for them to be telling it from an African perspective, and then the journey that they must travel to ensure that it gets out?
You see, Tebza, there's a difficulty in publishing our stories. One, there's a story aspect of it, and the arts aspect of it. Number two, and then there's a commercial viability of it.
Okay.
And together, when as a company, because we are an enabler of authors and publishers to sell through our platform, we meet different challenges. And what it really means is that a lot of our stories are not getting out there. Why? Firstly, to get published under traditional publishing is very difficult. We have very few traditional publishers that really can put their money where their mouth is in terms of backing a story. But with those, the queue is so long in terms of you submitting your manuscript and them accepting it and putting it through edit, through proofreading, and eventually print, and then launching it and putting it out there. That's a very high level of what it means to really put your book out there. And now we're seeing a surge of self-publishers where a lot of people in Africa are saying, look, I can't wait for somebody to come buy my story. So the best that I can do is fund it myself. And that is a very challenging process because, number one, you can fund it, but then don't have the industry relationships or the industry knowledge to really penetrate markets. So that's what we're breaking down with the event today. So the event is part of a series of events called the Afrocentric Agenda, presented by SA Books Online, where we're really going to get into the nitty-gritties of the publishing industry for the African person.
Okay, let's talk about, and thank you for noting some of the challenges in the publishing space. And, I mean, we can talk about also the incorporation and how publishers are assisting to diversify in terms of voices and narrative. But the importance for African institutions, let's talk about what makes it important for them to take a lead in being able to shape narratives on the continent.
I think more than anything, once we start to begin to talk about the institutions, we are talking about an entity that has the capacity to issue out in-depth research, because that's what we really chasing as a society, as a continent. When we're saying we are documenting our stories, we're trying to put out the historical facts and use them to build a better future for our continent. So when institutions take the lead, they bringing forward their research muscle, which is very important in terms of compiling our African stories and putting forward our African knowledge. More than anything, outside the financial aspect of it, the more we collect our stories, especially from first-hand sources like people and elders who are still alive, people who can really give us an oral story, and then we just cross-reference and try to find the facts, and interviewing community members who witness particular events and have particular knowledge of particular places, historic events, and relationships between ourselves, because we think because of how we are set up now, post-colonial times, it is as if we've always been divided, and it was only colonialism that introduced things like borders and a modern education that makes us forget where we come from. So institutions right now, especially African institutions, are very deliberate about a decolonized educational system. Hence, they're the best people to lead us in this new age of literature.
Very important conversation that you're having in this session, Sbu. Let's talk about the people that you were involving in this. The likes of Abu Vikas van Sale, historian Jongi Joseph Klaas. What value did they add, or do they add in conversations such as these?
Firstly, I'd like to thank UJ for partnering with us. So, Mr. Vikas Vatsail is the director of UJ Press, who have been relentless in publishing African literature. I think in the past 3 years, they've put out more than 100 books that are very well researched. And we want to get to have a conversation with them and them unpacking the processes, the burdens and the obstacles they meet in publishing these books. And Dr. Klaas wrote a beautiful book titled The Triangle of 100 Years. It's about the San and the Xhosa people who were part of the resistance of the South African colonial times when the British came. So there was a particular period for 100 years where the Xhosa people had been resisting colonization, and he brings up some interesting facts, like how we have the misquoted story of Nongausa, who was an African traditionalist who were told the nation to kill all of their cattle. And then Dr. Klaas introduces an argument to say, but the cattle she said they must kill, they were all infected with a lung disease that originates from Europe. So she was shown that in order for us to protect ourselves, we need to kill the cattle that is already infected so it doesn't infect the other cattle. Whereas the misquoted story was that she had a vision and then she was ostracized by her people because she told the people to kill all of the cattle. And he explores the story of how the San people, San and the Khoisan genocide that took place. And how particular places got to be named in South Africa by people who were actually the leaders of genocide.
Man, so critical, very, very important. I want to go back I mean, mentioned how timely this particular gathering is going to be, but also I think that the title itself is very catalytic, what it really means to publish African. So let's talk about how that theme is going to also speak to the role of digital publishing, the role that it plays in being able to expand access to African knowledge.
I think we are exploring two things here. The publishing process as an African, telling an African story, firstly, and the introduction of the digital world into literature, which is bridging so many gaps that have been missing for decades in Africa when it comes to sharing our particular stories. There's a number of people who we've met who had a little bit of the means to really document a book and put it to print, and then it eventually died because they had no distribution channels. But what digitizing things means, it means when you just click that publish button on SA Books Online, it's available worldwide and for as long as we exist, because it's a platform that is owned by Africans. It has an African IP and it prioritizes African stories. So the digital world now, we're saying, as we merge understanding the process of publishing African, the obstacles and the strengths of publishing African. Now we giving it a boost with the digital infrastructure to really put it out there to as many corners as possible so that our stories are no longer misquoted because they will be heard by the world through our mouths.
Spo, how can we get involved and be a part of these events and future events that you'll be hosting?
If you go on SA Books, the SA Books Online on all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, we do have a link where you can subscribe to our newsletter when we release these events. Currently, the link that you have now, if you want to join us now at 4 and you can't make it to UJ, there is a virtual link for everyone to view it. But if everyone follows our socials, we'll just keep posting the link again and again so people can subscribe to our newsletter, or even go on our site, sabooksonline.co.za, or download our mobile app on app stores if they just want to read offline. The link will be there for you to subscribe to our newsletter and keep informed with these the Afrocentric agenda events that will be taking place throughout the year. And we're hoping we don't stop with partners such as Channel Africa supporting us. We are confident for our first event to have you guys support us and UJ come on board to say this is a good start and we will grow much bigger than this.
Incredible work that you're doing, Sbu. Thank you so much for your time and all the best with the event this afternoon.
Thank you, guys. I'll invite you to the next one then again.
We'd love
please.
that.
Yeah, I would love that. Oh, my goodness. The Afrocentric agenda, hey? And I think that speaks to, and also big love to Sbu, because he lives and breathes the work. It's not a side piece. It really is about changing the space. So very important conversation on the future of African academic publishing. If you can, it's happening at 4 p.m. Central African time. Just log on to SA Books Online and register for a virtual viewing. You don't have to drive all the way, thanks to modern tools. It is 3:30. Let's check in with the latest in sports.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.